All right, you ready to bring on
Like
Laura?
my new background? It's in
Oh,
honor
I
of
love it.
Laura.
Is
Okay.
it your artwork?
It's my artwork,
Mm,
absolutely.
that's beautiful.
But if you can see, it's a complete gathering of
Yeah.
beings. So, in a
Uh-huh.
way, it's that council that we've been referring to.
Maybe later on over the weekend you can do a little mini tour, 5-10 minute tour of your art, if that's
Oh, that would
possible.
be really fun.
That'd be pretty
All
cool.
right.
Yeah, add a different dynamic. All right,
And
so it's all yours. You want to take it away?
I'm going to introduce Laura. And I just have to say something, Laura. When I stared at your picture this morning, when I thought, oh gosh, I get to introduce Laura, I am captured by your eyes.
Oh.
And so, you truly represent this cosmic Gaia Sophia, and your essence just comes through. If I didn't say anything else, that would be enough, guys. But okay, so everyone knows Laura. She is the foremost and forefront of all things exopolitics, extraterrestrials, disclosure, truth, ancient history, even in the wilderness, which I find that so exciting, Laura. And she's masterfully woven together esoteric and alchemical aspects of nature with our ancient roots, hidden history, the present world, and our future potential. She is also a whistleblower, speaking out about being recruited to go up to Mars. I remember hearing some of your stories years ago. And she really is a truth seeker, uncovering very dark and necessary truths and agendas about humanity. So for more than 15 years, she has been traveling around the world, doing readings and transformational healings. So she's come to us at the most wonderful time for us here in our conference and in our life, actually. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much, Joan. It's great to see you.
Always love seeing you. So take it away, and I'll just pop in and when periodically to engage with you if you'd like. Or
yes.
tell
Yes,
us what, well,
absolutely.
actually, let's start it this way. What have you been up to? And
Well,
what are you presenting?
I've just joined a new platform with Conscious Vitality. And if people go to my website, cosmicgaia.org, you can find out all about it. It gives you access to other people's shows and material. And it also has a social media network, and it's all protected. They own their own servers. And so no issues with censorship or anything like that. And I'll be doing a bi-weekly thing, soon to be once a week show. And yeah, so that's kind of new, and just things, gosh, like everybody, processing the craziness of the last year or so. But live here in Montana and just with the family, and everything's good with us. But it's been a lot for all of us to see what's been going on. So I'm trying to align with, and I have aligned with some really good companies that can help mitigate some of the harmful effects of things like EMFs and heavy metals, and just products I really believe in. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Haven't been doing that much traveling, of course, because of all the craziness. But yeah, the new platform's the biggest news, though.
Well, that's interesting. So it's called Conscious Vitality. And I'm going to make a note of it too, because, I'm always looking for new platforms also that have this big reach. So what's on your mind to bring to us today, on this whole issue of ascension, where we are in the pandemic and in our lives?
Well, I'm going to bring in some astrological information kind of from a medical astrology perspective, so we understand how they're utilizing some of these planetary alignments to kind of work with the lower octaves and shadow sides of these planetary energies to create a lot of fear and anxiety, and and what we can actually do with these sort of energetics that are available, what they truly represent, and how we can sort of ride the higher waves of what's actually available, because this is a big paradigm shift right now. So I'm going to share some of the astrological stuff and things related to DNA and our galactic chakras, and just the whole process of upgrading and allowing ourselves to upgrade, reminding people that we are extraordinary, powerful, creative beings, and there's so much more that we can be tapping into right now to offset a lot of the darkness in the world and these sort of dark agendas. So yeah, I just got a couple slides and you can jump in anytime if you're inspired to ask a question about any one of them. And
Sweet. I can't wait. I'm excited about this. And, I knowing that there is a lot of dark, it's really helpful for us to know how to mitigate it
yes, totally. So
and
that's
be our
what
big,
it's about.
powerful selves. So, yes, let's go.
Okay, sweet. All right, so share screen. That's weird. It's not coming up. Hold on a second. I think you need to make me a co-host, or have you already?
We see your screen.
Oh, yeah, your screen is up there.
Okay, so let me just try again because
Oop.
Here's my presentation. All right. And I'm kind of starting off with a bang without a whole lot of intro, but just to give you guys a little bit of background about concerning where I get my information. A lot of it I've just gotten through epiphanies, revelations, and downloads throughout my life. The information I've gravitated to, though, that has really helped me to bring more expression to it is Keylontic Science and Lisa Renee's energeticsynthesis.com. And I just, study a lot of different approaches from science perspectives that go beyond the dead sciences that help us to understand our junk DNA and how that relates to the planetary grid network. So the presentation that I did with Neil with Portal to Ascension over the course of May 16th to 18th goes into great more depth, and you guys can purchase the replay. But this is just kind of like a taste of it. So currently, planet Earth's inhabitants are undergoing a war over timelines. The invading forces of the negative alien agenda who use the artificial tree of life as a manifestation grid. So trigger events to hook us into false solutions is what we're seeing. Drugs, pharmaceuticals, and externalization of our healing process. A lot of people are kind of still caught in the trap of where we're looking externally for things that we could be finding within. And these are what these times are about when we look at or we think about the whole concept of awakening and ascension. We want to allow these adversities to help us to upgrade, to help us to get closer to our soul versus giving our power more away and getting more disconnected from our soul. So building intuition, getting to know our bodies, and just sort of understanding what's kind of going on a planetary alignment level and what's actually available in this ascension window is nice and empowering in the face of things that are causing people a lot of fear. And so when we look at the whole concept of trigger events, it's coming from psychological operations and false flags and the use of dark technology and bioweapons. So the cover story is never the truth. What's actually going on behind has a lot to do with these deep state New World Order agendas that are looking to really compromise humans, enslave them further, depopulate a huge portion of the population. And a lot of us have been trying to warn people for a really long time, and now we're seeing it and witnessing it. And to me, it's just this very, very difficult, dark period we have to move through, because beyond that veil is something really extraordinary and beautiful. We're just going through this really intense dark night of the soul on a humanity level. But I feel that the 0-point unified field energies, the energies connected to the Andromedan core, galactic core, that's now in oneness with the Milky Way galactic core, it's giving us access to so many more dimensions, and it's helping us to upgrade in ways that we might not fully realize. And I feel that with this rising truth and these kind of activations coming through, it'll help to offset all this darkness that we're seeing and help to alchemize and transmute what some of these weapons and methods that they're using that aren't really beneficial. I feel like it can turn a lot of that around, particularly if a person's willing to question the narrative and break free from the mind control. Of course, the mind control gets stronger when people are making decisions to put these things in their body, and just the fact that we've been breathing in the nanites from the chemtrails. But when we're aligned with the truth frequency, I truly feel, and I've seen it, I've witnessed it in my own life, I've seen it in others, we can transmute the lead of this human experience into gold. There's a lot of people who have recovered from secret space programs, MK Ultra programs and projects that are very soul-centered and very, very strong in who they are. They've recovered a lot of their memories. So what might seem impossible is possible, and we want to remember that. So artificial intelligence systems have been designed and weaponized, specialized for emotional and ultimately spiritual harassment. This is so that the emotional and spiritual energies get lowered to the level that a machine can entrain, follow, mimic, match, record, modify, and replicate that energetic blueprint. If our consciousness is above this and not in the programming, we aren't as impacted. So for artificial intelligence to really be able to infiltrate, we have to be in a pretty low frequency. And that's why they kind of warm us up with the false flags or the psychological operations or the false news, false narratives, and all this stuff to get us all in survival, to get us into a low frequency, to begin to play into new ways to divide and conquer us, which they've been pretty successful in, but not in a bigger picture sense are they being successful. So that, we're running a low frequency, which the AI, can mimic and train to keep one in a negative feedback loop. So they're kind of like, just in a trauma loop, really. And so in my bio, I talk about wanting to help people to move out of this holographic time loop. And this is kind of what I'm talking about, is the artificial aspect of it. How they siphon and harvest our energies to battery up artificial timelines, but they require our energy to be able to do it. So we have to remember that the deep state and the cabal and whatever power they think they have is all stolen power. They wouldn't have that power unless they were stealing it. And as we see with human trafficking, child trafficking, pedophilia, the targeting of, children, and just the dark technologies that siphon and harvest our life force energy through sexual misery programs and Nephilim reversal grids and the Nibirian Diadetic crystal, they're able to harvest all of this. And they require us to be programmed, because when we're programmed, we're not in direct connect. Our auric field's not protected, and they can literally siphon our energies. And a lot of times it's because of implants, but implants aren't limited to the devices. I can't remember who I was talking to about this the other day, and I should. But implants are, thought forms. Oh yeah, Michael Mornian. That the mind control in and of itself and the way we treat one another can create sort of implants where, somebody's projections or criticisms or abusive behaviors can link into some trauma patterns within our own being and sort of, create sort of a subpersonality or a disconnect. So we can't give our power away, just like we don't want to in a relationship or in an individual that doesn't treat us well. We don't want to in a system that doesn't treat us well. And the red flags are there, and it's time to look deeply so that we're not being betrayed or fooled anymore. And it's hard to wake up to having a betraying partner who might be cheating and lying behind our back, as it is to wake up to a system that is doing just that. So we got to take care of the micro world in order to bring something of value to the collective consciousness, which means we need to break the ties. We need to end this relationship and begin to look towards each other and build, from a grassroots level and from a community, level, just the resources we need to, be able to thrive, whether that's healing centers or community gardens or pooling together to stand up against tyrannical authority and the different things that they're doing. And that's been happening all over the world, and which is really awesome, because in this higher vibration and cooperation, it's really, really hard to penetrate. Also using stones and crystals and essential oils and sound healing music and all these different things, we can share these kind of resources with each other and really protect ourselves. And there's all sorts of great nutritional things that I'm getting in touch with that will help with the spiked proteins and also maybe possible vaccination damage. So go ahead, Joan.
I just want to say something that is so important, what you're bringing up. Okay, this detaching from the media, detaching from that wave that is attacking people constantly of this negativity and false information. So I just think that's incredible.
Oh, well, thank you.
Very timely. We need this.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So the concept of like timeline wars, you got the organic timeline that never goes away, that can't be destroyed. Things have gone dormant. Maybe our galactic chakras aren't fully activated and we're still kind of in that illusion that we actually have junk DNA when it's actually a treasure, and it's not junk at all. It holds different higher harmonic universes, and it gets switched on through alchemical marriage, integration of polarity, sacred union, all the way into hierogamic union. So we achieve sort of a twin flame activation within our own being, which helps us to find soul family, soulmates, and then that sort of twin flame, connection. But just like we're not going to experience higher earth energies unless we can comprehend those vibrations within ourselves, we need to switch this stuff on to begin to see a higher world, because the earth responds to us. So if we can take it upon ourselves to begin to switch on what's dormant, we will be able to perceive a world that's reflecting back these higher dimensions. So it's not all about us just switching it on, though. We have to understand that we're getting activated. There's a lot of transmissions coming through the Earth, the planetary grid network, and coming from these planetary alignments. And that's kind of what the rest of my presentation is about. When we look at AI timeline or artificial timeline, it's based in 10D, which is 10 spheres, which is draconian. And it's all about the reversals and the harvesting and siphoning. And so there's a lot of manipulation to sacred geometries and templates in order to give us the wrong coding, right? So it should be 12 spheres, but this one says 10 spheres. So if you look at this particular tree of life and count, it only has 10. And this is a lot of tree of life templates that people are connecting with, not realizing it's not the full picture. And so this artificial tree of life overlay has been cast upon the planetary grid network to alter our capacity to be on an organic ascension timeline. And it's created dissension in certain areas. There's been massive control over the stargates and ley lines starting thousands and thousands of years ago, but grid workers have come in and all sorts of starseed missions have come in to create corrections. So now the planetary grid network is flowing in a much more healthy way, which is breaking down these negative timelines. But, you know, as long as people stay aligned, though, to the narratives and the propaganda and keep engaging in these false solutions, the bifurcation will take place, and it will be very, very difficult to occupy the same timeline as the individuals that are making those choices. But if they change their mind, I do feel that all this damage can be corrected and that it's not all doom and gloom, but the willingness has to be there. So this overlay grid network really wanted to put the whole human race on a trajectory of like Armageddon, end of the world scenarios, fake alien invasion, and all these different things that prevent a person from asking all the right questions. Well, lots of breakthroughs have happened. The Great Awakening has happened, and it's very much spreading all over the planet. Uprisings are happening. New platforms are being created that aren't censored. And so we're just really relating to the true template of the tree of life. And I'm going to get into that, but this is how it looks. It's got 12 spheres and it's broken up into different harmonic universes. So looking at this power versus force, David Hawkins, in this book, he has this particular model or what do you call it? Like just this chart to understand frequency, right? So the contracted energy that happens when we're triggered into fear or just some kind of low vibration, you know, begins to change the vibration and vibratory rate of like our body and what we're generating into the environment around us. If we're in a place of shame, guilt, apathy, grief, or fear, or desire, or anger, or pride, we're not vibrating very high. So all these different tactics they use in order to drop us into these low energies. That's why they have trolls. That's why, you know, there's harassment, like in that slide where it said spiritual harassment. You know, these kind of harassments that just throw us off our center and get the best of us. You know, sort of like when you see a person with road rage, you know, or just how easily people snap or get triggered or offended. You know, all these different operations have been put in place in order to pull a person in so that they're like, yeah, I'm really angry at that. Or, I mean, it's just, they kind of bite the bait and end up sinking down to these low vibrations. We certainly don't see our outer society encouraging us to have courage. No, when we have courage, we're censored or smeared. Some people are suicided, you know, just to have the courage to speak truth and to be whistleblowers, right? So to cross the threshold that we need to cross, we have to begin to just have the courage. It's much better to live as a truth warrior than allow oneself to be limited by fear. We just have to do the best we can to protect ourselves and not be afraid of death, regardless of what happens. Our soul journey is so much more important. But of course, we want to be careful and not totally put ourselves on the line. But each person, you know, has a certain calling, and it's not for everybody. But we can at least be supportive and be building community. And we all have an incredible purpose to shine our light, to speak our truth, to live our passions and dreams, to, you know, to make this work. And it's a choice to not drop in these lower frequencies, because that is when the dark technology gets the best of us. And that's where Archon attachments can happen. And we're just very vulnerable. So we move past courage, we move into neutrality, where we're not just being played and going to extremes. We can just find sort of that middle road and not be in this duality. And we can find this, center of where we can integrate polarity, where we can appreciate both the right and left sides of ourselves, and our masculine and feminine traits within ourselves. And anyway, I know you guys know what I mean. Then willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, enlightenment. And to me, enlightenment very much has to do with accepting that sometimes we're going to drop down into our lower frequencies, but also knows how to reset, self-correct, and get back on track right away. To me, that's a very enlightened approach, because we are human. We're going to fall into these places. We don't want to be, judging ourselves for it, because then we're dropping in frequency. So we got to kind of accept it and allow ourselves to do that alchemical shift when we find ourselves moving into those contracted spaces, to catch ourselves, to take a breath, to meditate, to put something good in your body, and just allow yourself to move back into all of this. And it's kind of like exercise. I mean, we're kind of in this great spiritual gym. We're spiritual athletes. We need to learn how to fly over the obstacles instead of keep hitting our head against the obstacles, feeling injured and victimized and defeated. So we're gaining a lot of strength in, our ability to snap out of the funks we might get ourselves in, and get ourselves back on track if we feel that we've been knocked out of our center due to maybe bullying or any kind of harassment. And then when we do feel triggered, we really want to engage in that, breathe unconditional love into it, so that we can neutralize and raise the vibration of these things that, when they get triggered, throw us down, right? So it's not just facing the everyday and the annoyances and frustrations and tragedies and traumas of the everyday and what we're witnessing. It's also cleaning house, so we can begin to neutralize the traumas from even past lives and bring those into the vibration of, neutrality, where we're not so triggered anymore. So when we look at the 12-strand DNA and sort of how it's broken up, we can understand, it's not just genetic coding. I mean, it connects us to the full multidimensional cosmos, and it connects us with our galactic history. So if we're just in the personality matrix, and we're running only a few strands of DNA, 3 or 4 strands of DNA, which keeps us sort of in the 3D and astral, we're really limited to the personality matrix. And very often, to transcend the personality matrix, which some might call 3D Earth, we have to break the mind control, because when we're just in the personality matrix and we're not connecting with our soul matrix, we're very vulnerable to mind control, because there's been digression of the human. We are like accepting that it's just junk DNA, and we're allowing ourselves to answer to outer authority that really wants to keep us down here, because that's how they make money. That's how they stay in power. And due to the loss of galactic memories, people don't really question. So, after Maldek exploded, the 3D asteroid belt came around, and we've been incarnating with amnesia and negative ego duality issues. But not a lot of people are just in the personality matrix. There's star seeds, there's very soul-centered individuals who have already moved through the veil. Perhaps they had a lot of death, rebirth, and transformation experiences along the way. Maybe they just kind of got it from the get-go. But it's usually this kind of initiation that brings us into these higher dimensions. So we go through sort of a death cycle and a awakening, because death always is followed by rebirth and transformation. And we die many, many deaths in this physical incarnation. And then there's the physical death. But I mean, it takes us to a new experience, of course, and there's nothing to fear there. So death, rebirth, transformation. But it's messed with by trigger events. For example, people are so afraid of this virus and so afraid of dying that they're staying in the personality matrix, getting more and more immersed in this artificial intelligence and the mind control and what the outer authority is telling us we need to do. People are celebrating getting the jab, and that's fine. Everybody's got the right to medical freedom and to do what they want to do. But I mean, it's sort of amazing to see how much people are rerouting themselves into the matrix, into this time loop, because they're really afraid of this initiation. We've been dealing with Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn conjunctions as of last year. It's now not in tight conjunction anymore, but that represented a huge paradigm shift, in an initiation as a collective. And instead of moving through that to get the upgrades and to get the truth and to really see the larger picture of what's going on, people are like, no, no, no. I'm just going to listen to mainstream news. I'm just going to do what I'm told. I'm going to let my fear of death limit my capacity to actually understand what these times are really about, to move into this next level of human advancement on an organic level. So anyway, a lot of us already exist on a soul matrix level. That's why we're able to meet soul family and soulmates and engage on a much deeper level. We can see through the lies. We can connect to each other's hearts and souls. We're beyond the world of appearances and facades. And we just live on a deeper level. So the vibratory match and the synchronicities that come with that are not in this lower 3D anymore. We're literally functioning in a completely different dimension while we're still grounded with the earth, but the organic earth, not the matrix, not the webbing of the matrix that catches us in this net. But we're grounded. We have a root system, and that's part of the rebuilding and restoration or rehabilitation of the tree of life, which is our true 12 strand and beyond DNA template. We've been dealing with the tree of knowledge, but knowledge has been targeted with mind control. So we haven't really gained the self-knowledge. That is what it's all about, really. To get out of this duality, we have to have the self-knowledge and remember the rest of all that we are. When we start to enter these higher dimensions, though, we face some of these things, or these are places that we used to reside before we sunk down into this lower density. Basically, Tara and Tiamat explosion in 5D Earth that sunk down into 3D Earth created the Earth as we know it. And that's why Tiamat and the artificial moon, there's a relationship there. And also parts of the body of Tiamat are part of this Earth. And Maldek and the Earth were, for a time, living expressions of this split. And that's what my research has shown. So take what resonates and leave the rest. But anyway, so a lot of us are already in this level of wholeness. I mean, it doesn't mean we can always maintain it because life isn't easy, but we've experienced this. We know how it feels. You know, it doesn't mean that our physical body is necessarily caught up, but our consciousness has been able to reach these higher levels. And eventually the physical will catch up, but it takes a while to go from carbon-based to crystalline and to have it all switched on. But waking up in this lower density with so many unconscious people, it's very, very difficult to shift the physical body when we're sharing space with a lot of low density. So that's why the bifurcation needs to happen so that we can have the space to move through the rest of these upgrades. And then you got the monad matrix, and that's the 7D Earth. So these are higher harmonic universes and higher Earth energies that when we switch on, we begin to experience these higher Earths. But we're not as vulnerable to the galactic wars and all the things that happen in these higher Earths because we've been there, done that. So when we revisit it, we have an added strength, and we have you know, an inner victory that's able to reconnect with these higher harmonic universes, despite the traumas that we experience when some of these celestial bodies that we existed upon exploded, or, you know, we've been dealing with galactic wars since Lyra and the Orion Wars and this and that, and how it impacted, you know, these higher Earths. But when we reconnect with it, we are in a place of mastery instead of the level of vulnerability we were, because this is a free will universe and we're here to experience it and learn about power, learn about who we truly are. And it's sort of like we lose who we are and then we rediscover it. So then we got the monad matrix. And yes, there were all sorts of things that happened there, but it goes beyond our seventh chakra. It begins to switch on our dormant DNA. And I'll show you some pictures of what it looks like when we start to vibrate in these higher dimensions beyond the seventh chakra system. And because Andromeda and Milky Way galactic cores are one again, we're able to access much more. And these activations are helping us to embody our 12th strand. It's going to take some time, but that's where the trajectory is. That's what Ascension is reclaiming what we've lost, what's gone dormant. Then you got the universal mind matrix, 13, 14, 15. The 13 is connected to the mother arc, the 13 sign of Fiacus that started to come into play in 2010 when there was a timeline shift. The sun started to move through the 13th sign. The 13 represents the mother arc that is actually anchored in the core of the planet. And this is a 13D dimension, like planetary core. It's a diamond heart. And it hasn't been in the earth body since the Sumerian Egypt invasion. That was when it just really couldn't remain here. All the Atlantean cataclysms, Lemurian Holocaust, all these different wars and battles and the targeting of the feminine and all this crazy stuff made it very, very difficult for the mother energy to be anchored in her own body as the planetary consciousness. We've been dealing with dark mother reversals and just a lot of dark history. As of 2009, 2010, that energy got anchored back into the planet in a very extraordinary way, which is creating the activations we need to move into higher earth energies in ways we weren't able to so easily before. Because the cataclysms knocked everything off center, they were able to gain control of the stargates and the planetary grid network. And now this window is all about the fact that they don't have the hold that they think they have or that they used to have. It might look a little freaky though, because of the way this agenda is rolling out and everybody's concerns about the jab and this and that. But there's something so powerful with this 0 point unified field energy, this 13, which is the neutron window into these other universes, and also the full cosmic trinity of Mother, Father, Christ, Sophia. And this template is the true template that we occupy. So our biological vessel is the most advanced technology, and we are Christed beings. We can achieve that Christ Sophia, Christ consciousness, avatar consciousness again, and create miracles and manifest things and have our hands heal. And a lot of people already have found those abilities. So everything gets switched on. So this tree of life, if you look, the lower 1, 2, 3, 3D physical dimension, then 4, 5, and 6, 5D semi-physical, 7D etheric dimension, and then 10, 11, 12 is the avatar consciousness, universal mind matrix, pre-matter dimension density 4, and then the founder flames. This is from Ascension Glossary, energetic synthesis.com. So this is our true template. So we don't want to just be in the 3D. I mean, we want our soul. We also want our higher mind, so that we can be that tree that has a root system and branches that are open, that we have access to all of it. So 5D ascension to me is the whole shebang. But the reason the significance of 5D is it's our throat chakra. It's the 5th element, ether, that is now with us, as the 13th sign is ruled by the ether. 5D to me is about clearing the throat chakra, speaking truth, having our words have such power that it manifests our reality, instead of spreading mind viruses that come along with mind control and staying in the lower 3D. So to me, it's all about empowered throat chakra that creates all sorts of incredible shifts in our reality and in our health. And then that alchemical shift and the fact that we're speaking truth and we're in that truth frequency, it grants us access to the rest of all that we are. And the 0 point unified field, which will help us to purify and alchemize and transmute dark weaponry and be the great beings that we're intended to be. Any thoughts, Joan? Oh, you're muted.
Gosh, there I am. I'm turned on, ready to go. So we had a question in YouTube about the artificial tree of life. So I'm thinking that because of the mind control, then you're saying that they were showing us the 10-strand DNA as the tree of life, and so we've been buying that.
Yeah, they really wanted to wipe out all the sort of templates and information that helps us to connect with the fullness of all that we are, 12-strand DNA, and how that moves into other levels and other dimensions, to the point where 12 becomes 24, becomes 48 strands, and we just have access to multiple dimensions, and we can come and go from the physical as we please. So the 10 spheres shows that 2 of the main stargates have been blocked, so we can't gain access to these other higher earths. The seals and fences put in our DNA have made it really, really difficult to move beyond the 3D. And then the 10th sphere is sort of like these beings are ruling from sort of the 10D, where when the Lyran Wars happened and they attacked, and the reptilians attacked, they gained some sort of foothold where they were able to be the lower creator gods, blocking us from the true Christ energy, the 0 point unified field. And that's where the Anunnaki comes in, and their alliance with some of the reptilians, and just how they've wanted to be the overlords and the gods, but they're not functioning at the full capacity, and they're not in a dimensional band of energy that allows full connection to 0 point. That's why they're vampires, and they need to steal life force to have any power. They want to create loosh. So the 10 spheres also comes with a lot of reversal technologies that harvest and siphon. So I hope that kind of answers it. It's kind of, yeah, I mean, it's a lot to try. And I mean, I'm still learning. It's like, okay, but yeah, connecting these sort of dots is, yeah, I mean,
so many dots.
They're a replica of this. So if they can manipulate the earth grids, they're actually manipulating us in our energetic field.
Right.
What was that?
Right. So we have a question here from the beginning. Who are they? So can we go back to like when you're referring to they in the
Okay.
big thing, big
Yeah, so
picture?
we're dealing with negative alien agenda. So Zeta Reticuli, service to self beings, Alpha Draconis, certain factions of Anunnaki, even some Nordics. So not all within those races are negative. So it's either your service to self or service to others. Service to self exploits others and steals and deceives in order to be in power, to keep us from being sovereign, so that it can harvest us, feed on us, and create a life cycle because it's disconnected from source. Whether that's through being a fallen angelic group or rebellion, they have lost that connection. And to be rulers, they have to create programmings and distortions in order to be able to be a host or be a parasite to human host. So that that's how they live. And then they use AI and dark technologies to give them the energetic supplement or food that they need. And this goes into like adrenochrome. So they have their hybrid families on Earth, their hybrid families on Earth that are connected with them, that work with them, that have targeted children, and they sell their families into these sort of things. And you get the pedophilia, the adrenochrome, and it's all because it's vampiric, because it's not operating in the fullness. So that circulation with spirit doesn't allow them organic immortality on a soul level. So they have to use machine and AI and use us as a food source to even exist. So they rely on us for their survival. That's why they're so relentless. So, yeah. So I'm just going to have to run through just a little bit, but anything else? Any more questions?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. All right, so the seedings of the root races on this planet have been to reassemble the original DNA and reclaim that which was lost in the Lyran Wars with the Orion group. So again, we're talking about service to self entities. We're talking about fallen angelic lines and races, and just the mess that all made. And the original wars were always about, you know, Christ or Antichrist, service to self, service to others type thing. So with all the different kinds of species there are, it really comes down to two distinct types. Are they looking out for the human race and the sovereignty of life, and encouraging us to develop our greater ability so we can save ourselves? Or is it anti-life, vampiric and exploitive and all out for themselves and their own power? So the 12 tree grid was designed to help reassemble the original avatar DNA of the human being in the lower harmonic universes and reclaim all aspects back into wholeness. So the way this planetary grid network was set up on an organic level was to assist souls in advancing again, and through reincarnation, kind of learning how to use power correctly and gaining some experience. But it got so infiltrated that we've been incarnating for so long, and there's been so many things that they've attempted to do to trip us up, that they were able to shift the planetary grid network in order to create a false timeline, false artificial timelines. And again, these corrections have happened, and we're correcting ourselves through deprogramming. And that is the Great Awakening, truly waking up to the fullness of all that we are and consciously calling it back and engaging in healthy lifestyles to create hospitable space for ourselves to call all of this back, because it's the energy that we call back, the consciousness, and the activation of our galactic chakras to switch on these dormant strands, to change our physical and advance our physical. And then the chakra system will change. It won't be so compartmentalized. It'll be much more integrated. So psychospiritual warfare is radically increased when a person is entering the integration stages of 7, 8, and 9D. And again, beyond the 7th chakra of the monadic spiritual triad, because this is when we begin to achieve hierogamos and ascension. They don't want us to have twin flame relationships or soulmates. That's why there's sexual misery programs and a lot of crazy indoctrination that distort the masculine and feminine and how we relate to it. Instead of relating it to it on an authentic level and finding it within, we learn and we watch, we read magazines, we watch movies, we watch television, and we're sort of modeled, you know, these things, or there's trends that people end up following, or, you know, people aren't really functioning in an authentic way. And if they dare be authentic, sometimes they're called weird or crazy, or they got learning problems and need to go on drugs, or something's not right with them because they're not following the program. Something's unusual about them. But, you know, a lot of artists and musicians, you know, tend to have found that personal sovereignty space, and they end up inspiring people to drop those programmings and judgments and projections, because it's like, wow, you know, people who are really true to themselves tend to be super duper creative people and are really in enjoyment of their own creative freedom to express beauty. And so very often it's easier to wake a person up through art and music and sound healing than trying to red pill them, but a little bit of both is good. Anyway, I'm going off on tangents here, but anyway, this is what it looks like. 8th and 9th chakra. It's an infinity spiral. So you can imagine if it's an infinity spiral, it's going to be activating our bodies. And the number 8 is actually connected to Saturn, but the low octave of Saturn is tyrannical authority. The high octave of Saturn is self-mastery. So once we overcome tyranny and false authority and control and enslavement, then we actually enlighten Saturn because it rules the law of structure. We're able to have the physical vessel, which holds the structure of the skeletal system and the teeth and, you know, the things that are the structure. We are the living structure that's able to house our multidimensional nature, our higher truth, our wisdom, our love, and all these higher dimensional energies because we've gained self-mastery. We are now the teacher, not in the conventional sense, not in a tyrannical, controlling way, but leading by example, being an activator because one has allowed themselves to be activated. So anyway, these are masculine and feminine energies of, you know, the gold and the silver, and they tend to try and implant us in the base of the skull. There's ethereal implants so that we can't activate this. And then again, this is when people tend to get targeted and attacked when they begin to move into this stage. And when people get targeted and attacked and they don't realize they're being targeted, sometimes they can take it very personally, feel very defeated, and then their vibration drops and they're feeling guilt or regret or shame, like I failed my spiritual path, when one has to understand that one is being harassed and targeted to drop into that space of defeat. So we have to just breathe through what, you know, is psychic attacks or a lot of these kind of adversities and just keep breathing through it until we're on the other side. And that's where a lot of people are right now. So this is kind of the progressions of sacred marriage that has to do with our chakras and our DNA. Level 1 is building wings, our third eye and crown chakra. Level 2, crystal lotus heart. The 8th and 9th that we just saw is the infinity spiral. Level 3, Hyros, Gamos, and Christos hydroplasmic light, 10, 11, 12, the avatar matrix, where we achieve reunion with the fullness of our 12th strand, which we used to have in the Lyran system and other experiences in our galactic soul history. So, but that shows up as like a greater love story, right? And I've talked about this in presentations where we're literally divorcing the imposters and the distortions and the falsities in the patriarchal program. We're divorcing that because it throws us out of balance, makes us vulnerable to entity attachments and illness and disease. And we're literally falling into the true love within ourselves and in creation, the authentic relationship with creation that is a beautiful love story, you know, and there is that hope and truth of a happily ever after when we do reach that. And the nature of our relationships change. The toxicity begins to fall away. We begin to detox on many levels, emotionally and physically, and we pull high vibration relationships to ourselves, and we create the boundaries we need because we've gained a lot of experience going through this madness. So I know I've got a little time, got to kind of wrap this up, but the Saturn square Uranus is what we're kind of experiencing till 2023. And instead of reading from it, I'm just going to kind of say from the top of my head. Saturn, the low level of Saturn right now represents tyrannical control, New World Order agenda scenarios. Uranus is all about liberation, freedom, connection with our higher mind. It's a very high vibrational planet and impacts our nervous system. And so Saturn, though, is like with its desire to control us, wanting us to stay in trauma loops, which affects our nervous system, so that we don't get the upgrades that Uranus can bring. So there's a tug of war going on between Saturn and Uranus because a squared aspect means friction and challenge. So Saturn doesn't want to let us move into this liberating energy of Uranus, which is the ruler of Aquarius. So if we think about the Aquarian age, right? So the energies of Saturn, you know, being tyrannical power and control. That's why there's worship of the dark Saturn, and just people in positions of authority are ruled by the dark Saturn. They're not just going to let us go easily into the vibration of Uranus, where we're activated, stimulated, upgraded, connected with truth frequency, which is what Uranus does. But Uranus is also a planet of shock and upheaval that leads to great awakening. So sometimes people aren't ready for Uranus. They're afraid of that vibration. They're afraid of the feeling of what they've invested in crumbling. They're afraid of maybe the system that they trusted, and the ego death that they might have to go through. So they don't like that activation. It's like uncomfortable because it just it can bring up a lot of anxiety. So it's like, okay, I'll just do what the authorities and those in the external world tell me, because that's a lot easier than to move into this initiation. Some, though, are very connected with Uranus already, and they love it. They love this activation. They love feeling the energy of Uranus. Maybe they were born with a lot of planets connected with Uranus in a harmonious way. But those that don't have a harmonious connection with it tend to just want to be told what to do. They don't like the feeling of that. So those of us that are aligned with Uranus, and we don't have to relate to it on a planet level, but who are aligned with the truth frequency, our own authenticity and sovereignty, which Uranus helps us to achieve personally, you know, we're going to do all we can to help inspire people to want to stand in alignment with this so we can kick Saturn off. And Uranus is going to also help us to connect with advanced technologies that will, you know, help offset some of the damages. And you know, things like med beds we hear about, and just working with frequency, sound, and color, and, you know, lots of other things. And I believe a lot of the people that have gotten through the secret space programs and gotten their memories back, you know, they might have had assistance from benevolent ETs as well. I mean, I've heard some stories concerning that. So all that is going to end up coming, and there'll be healing centers all over the planet. And these dark players will be held accountable, and we'll see something huge rise, because it's already risen. You know, people are banding together. There's uprisings happening all over the place. There's tours going on. There's lawsuits, and, you know, experts and doctors coming together, you know, people in their local community coming together, new platforms. Everything is looking pretty good in that way. So we just need positive, benevolent, truthful disclosure so that we can take care of our global citizens that need our help, that have needed our help for a long time. And I could keep going. So anyway, these transits and this sort of Saturn Aquarius thing is very much, yeah, what we're dealing with, what we've been dealing with. So Saturn transits Aquarius from 2020 to 2023. Hopes are being raised, and visionary ideas and thoughts of human advancement are being discussed. Our inner knowingness that some sort of ascension should be taking place exists for many, kind of like, okay, the reality we are experiencing is quite different, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. This was something we were bound to have to move through. They just have accelerated it. They're freaking out. They're trying to take down as many as possible, and keep some kind of food source for themselves, while also creating a lot of depopulation. But anyway, whatever happens, it's going to take work and effort. That is what Saturn requires us to do. It's just going to take work, because it's not like we can just ditch Saturn fully and completely. We need to allow it to take us into self-mastery, and work on the law of structure and the structures that we can build and create that house higher principles. What we want to kick out the imposters and the indoctrination programs and all that we're seeing, and build new structures that are enlightened and providing help and healing and true wellness. The control over stargates and earth grids, dark ritual abuses taking place, and how that has kept us in digression in 3D, and also the infiltration of our media and most power structures, and the programming embedded in our culture, we need to all unhook from. And once we do that, we work closely with the earth and the abundance of the earth and our greater abilities that we can all pull together to really be a community and build just the unified field here on earth and unity consciousness. So medical astrology, you know, you guys can play this back and kind of look at all the signs and the organs that they connect to, but you'll see the 13th sign of Fiacus here, and that just came in as of 2010, and it represents creatrix connectivity, pure transparent crystalline light, divine mother, and the cleansing power of cosmic love, recoding the DNA. This is where we're getting the upgrades, the 13th sign, and it's ruled by cosmic ether, the fifth element. So that's where the 5D earth is. These activations is the fact that the mother energy is here. Activations are taking place. It's rooted in the core of the planet. And of course, the divine mother, the cosmic mother, and 0 point unified field that is all created, or is all in this greater energetic circulation, which is the metaphor of the tree of life. This greater energetic circulation allows these high frequencies to come into the physical plane and do tremendous healing and help us to truly transform. And it is here. Every year, we move through the 13th sign of Fiacus between November and December, from Scorpio to Sagittarius. It sits right in there. So right now, the North Node is in Gemini. It's actually ruled by the lungs. So we can't really obtain 5D if we're being muzzled. And the symptoms of even the virus are attacking the lungs, our breath, Gemini rules oxygenation of the blood. So if we're stunting our growth, that's going to make us vulnerable to viruses. And it doesn't matter if it comes in the form of bioweapons. The growth period right now is to get our fifth chakra back. And that's what Gemini rules, is communication. So if it's being suppressed, if we're being censored, if we're being masked, if we're being separated, it is stunting our growth. So we cannot put up with it. And we should refuse to comply and keep speaking our truth, because that is what's carrying us forward. So I don't have time to go through all this, but all these outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, take us through the initiations.
You have time to finish this, so just breathe. We can go a little bit further.
Yeah,
and
like
that's
12,
when I start
12
to talk.
13 minutes.
Okay, that's when I start to talk real fast. I know.
Yeah, so no, just breathe. It's great information.
Okay, great. So the North Node in Gemini, like I said, let's just go back. If you look at Gemini, shoulder, arms, hands, upper ribs, lungs, trachea, bronchi, capillaries, breath, oxygenation of blood. So the North Node, which is representative of what we need to step into and integrate. We all have a North Node in our personal charts, but the transiting North Node that we're all experiencing, which is in the sign of Gemini, shows the growth period that is currently underway for humanity. And it has to do with the fifth chakra, right? So we're dealing with 5G or 5D, and it all relates to our throat. Are we speaking truth, or are we spreading deception without realizing it? The mind viruses, the propaganda, the fear, the compliancy, where we're being pushed into acting as authorities. Where's your mask? Where's your vaccination card? They're encouraging humans to literally be fully taken over. And that's the 5G. That's where the tyrannical rulership of Saturn has worked on some of these individuals, when really the growth period and initiation has to do with taking the mask off, singing the truth, speaking the truth, being creatively free, and not putting up with this. And then, this will work wonders for our lungs, our ability to draw deep breaths, the breath of life, the vibration and activations coming from the Divine Mother, and just everything that comes with taking deep breaths. I mean, we know that deep breathing and focusing on the breath is everything to maintain balance and health and well-being. We want to draw in that deep breath. And this is a total targeting to put masks on us, to censor us, and all this stuff. So anybody that's getting caught in that trap runs the risk of getting sick. And those that are really flowing with the energies tend to have strong immune systems and can face these sort of adversities, whether it's a virus, a bioweapon, negative technologies, nanites, chemtrails. We're able to transmute it and alchemize it because we're functioning on a higher dimensional level. And the frequency that comes through our voices that vibrates at a truth level can also manifest and generate things in our reality that is what that archetype magician is all about, which is connected to Mercury, which is the ruler of Gemini. The archetype connected to Mercury is the magician, and Hermes, who's able to travel between all dimensions, the underworld and above and everywhere. So when we speak quality words, we have the ability to help uplift people. We can help activate healing or inspire them to heal themselves. The power of our words can create cooperation and beautiful relationships and partnerships, and when we see kind of like the trolling and how the voice is being used to deter people, to frustrate people, to stress them out, to make them feel trolled, to make them feel insecure, it's to get them down to a lower vibration so the AI can infiltrate. So Uranus and Taurus is all about the awakening, the shock and upheavals. And these are slow moving generational planets. These are the great initiators. So the dark side of Uranus, though, is like transhumanism and dark technology, because any shadow side of a planet is going to keep us in our unconsciousness, which means they can take advantage of the unconsciousness. So instead of upgrading and recognize that we're the advanced technology, they want to keep us like in a place of thinking, oh, these external technologies related to 5D or transhumanism is something we should say yes to, and they try and make it look good so people consent. And so, that's the shadow part we have to work out so that we can be in these higher vibrations. So the shadow side that we experience can often be panic attacks, PTSD, nervous breakdown. We lose connection to our higher guidance when really it's providing us activations to be directly connected. Just like Saturn, it wants to take us into being controlled when actually it's teaching us to have self-control and be in our self-mastery. So whatever it's trying to, it's weakening what the actual strength is. Neptune in Pisces is connected to consciousness, freedom, creative imagination. And the shadow side is fear viruses, mind viruses, disinfo, confusion, all designed to infect our creative channels, because Neptune helps us to connect with the multidimensional. But if they can haunt our imaginations with fear and propaganda and disinfo to the point where we're living in the lie and we're living in the distortion and we think it's reality, then we are in the shadow side of Neptune, which is known for self-undoing, illusions, delusions, and addictions, and just like entity attachments, maybe just the lower side of Neptune's not easy. So Pluto is all about death of matrix control. It's all about transformation, death, rebirth, alchemy, transformation. If we don't move that initiation and we fear death instead, or we're just like not able to breathe through a dark night of the soul cycle that's taking us into transformation. Very often people have suicidal thoughts. They can't handle the energy of it. It's heavy energy. It's darkness. You feel stuck in the birth canal. You can't understand what's really going on, and that an initiation is underway. And so they're trying to keep us stuck so that we don't transform with this latest part of the agenda. And so it causes people to not want to get out of the cocoon to the point where they build a prison gate around the cocoon, so that when it's time to emerge, they can't. They're too imprisoned. They've lost the connection with the inner knowingness that when we've been in the cocoon or the dark night of the soul, we can emerge as a butterfly. So what happens when we resist these energies? Our immune system is lowered. We get hijacked. Our energies get siphoned. We feel hopeless, lost, and confused. We're in survival. We're reactive. We're ungrounded, and we're easy prey for AI and entity attachments. We need to increase our spiritual immune system, heal our mental and emotional bodies, and the physical will follow. True medical leaders will help guide this process too. So disclosure is to me about, and I've been inspired by other people, and just and all the different things that are important to disclose in these times. It's important to understand different ET races and their guardianship and genetic modification programs and breeding programs. We have to know what we're up against, because we're going to be dealing with a lot of interesting beings and hybrids. Secret space programs. We want to understand MyLabs, transhumanism, and other ET agendas, malevolent and benevolent, involved in the grand Earth experiment. Abductions and implanting, and what different agendas exist, and what is our relationship to them. We want to expose the crimes against humanity that are using humans as currency, and the parasitic nature of those who are part of these Luciferian covenants. We want to understand our divine template and how harmonic universes exist in our DNA. We want to put attention on galactic wars, galactic history, and all this lost history that we don't get in school, and also hidden extraterrestrial involvement on Earth and how they have used the veil of secrecy to manipulate and influence all worldly human affairs, societies, and belief systems through mind control and social engineering. We want to expose hidden advanced technologies made available that would completely change the Earth 3D paradigm. Free energy systems, reverse of aging and disease, end of poverty and slavery, human trafficking and pedophilia, and removal of cabal members. Also, understanding quantum mechanics as the basic foundation to comprehend ascension and the reality of multidimensional consciousness existing throughout all living intelligent energy systems. Also knowing about the true nature of reality, such as truth about our junk DNA, stargates, ley lines, geometric structures, and the sacred geometry, and our connection to zero-point unified field. The sciences that remind us about how we can shift from carbon-based to crystalline, and that we are way more than we can imagine. So the Archonic Matrix is an imitation of the original creation. It actually doesn't hold any real power over it unless you personally allow it to. Our energy and frequency can be plugged into two things: source energy or the electronic controls that seek to pull one into an artificial world. The only real danger is that you give yourself over to it by buying into the theater. If we can detach from the money system, even though we're going to still be working with it to a certain degree, the media, the governments, and the distortions, you can unfold into your original form, upgrading and restoring your DNA and circuitry, which allows one to withstand and integrate the powerful energies streaming in, rather than the dark forces pulling one under and into chaotic emotions, fear, or unconscious attachments that are unhealthy. And that's it.
Wow. Okay, that last sentence was like there is a really very powerful how we can actually step free from this matrix.
Yeah, and we're all going to work together. We're going to remind each other, and we've totally got this. And in a lot of ways, we stepped out a long time ago, but what we're witnessing is like, so insane, and how it tries to yank us back in, and all the different tactics being used. But I love this community,
Right.
and I'm so grateful we all have each other, and it's so wonderful to see you, because it's been a while.
It's been a long while. We have a few questions. Okay. So let's just, so the first question I have here is like, well, then who are the Archons? Okay. I thought they were the ones that caused the stargates to close.
Well, the Archons, arch as a prefix means ruler. So Archons, when we see like entity attachment or Archons, are kind of like mind parasites connected to tyrannical rulership or these lower creator gods. And so the Archonic system or the Archonic behaviors are a part of what these different negative groups are holding. But there's also kind of Archonic forces that we're surrounded by with the AI and what streams through the televisions, and anything that's deceptive or distorted is based in sort of Archons. I feel like they're generated from distortion and imbalance. They're sort of like the things that, it's like when we have a messy kitchen or something, it attracts germs, right? So if there's not purity or balance or connection with truth, and things are off kilter, there's going to be some sort of energetic result. And to me, that's where the Archons kind of stem from the beginning of creation, when the differentiation of the masculine and feminine started to create a lot of imbalance in the greater creation, exploded planets as well, and how some of these fallen angelics work with these Archonic forces and demons in order to make our life miserable.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, so this is a confusing question. Someone was actually asking about a crystal that you were talking about, and some dark crystal, then a Nibirian crystal.
I didn't mention the Nibirian. Oh, Nibirian diotic crystal. Yeah, it's a dark technology that was placed in Stonehenge in order to create reversals and impact the ley lines in that particular area, and also Glastonbury, that have to do with sacred union. The Cathar and Albion connection was dismantled, and it's a major harvesting center. And this Nibirian diotic crystal is what the technology is called. I don't quite know how it operates or works, but I've got more information on that. Actually, if you go to Keylontic's dictionary and you put in Keylontic's dictionary, I think you can find it there, or the Ascension glossary, and just, actually I would do probably Keylontic's dictionary, and you'll see an option to push on a letter. So push on N, and you'll see that you can click on and learn more about it.
How do you spell that?
So Nibirian, Nib.
Well, not the Nibirian, but okay.
Diotic, Diodic. Diotic crystal. So yeah, just Google Keylontic's dictionary and hit the letter N, and you'll see the link, and then you can read the dictionary definition.
Perfect. So that should give everyone that answer. And the last question, well, it's not really the last question. How do people reach you? And do you have classes coming up where you're going to talk about galactic history? So how can people interact with you, love?
Okay, so I have a new platform. It's on Conscious Vitality. I'm going to be doing a show 4 days a week. Right now, I'm just starting off bi-weekly for at least this month while I get sort of the flow going. It's got a social media network, so you can interact, and it's all protected. They're private servers, no censorship, and you have access to other live shows and important information. And I will be doing courses. I don't have the courses set up yet, but it's the best place to go. It's $9.99 a month, which isn't bad considering how much information is there, and you'll be able to interact with me, and I can answer questions about your chart, and it's probably the best platform that I've been able to work with. I had to learn all my own tech stuff, so I'm encouraging people to switch over to that and give it a shot. They're going to have and be hosting all sorts of really cool people, but you can count on a show from me on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, and I get into all this kind of stuff. I have awesome guests and roundtables. And you can find it on my website, cosmicgaia.org. And I also encourage people to scroll down a little bit, and you'll see a Telegram link. If you can follow me on Telegram, I'll keep you guys updated with all sorts of stuff.